This morning, Biden announced that the U.S. will ban the import of Russian oil. Okay, well, that's good. That's a start. That may mean higher gas prices at the pump, but they were already going up anyway. They're going to go higher, at least in the short term. The obvious solution is to allow American companies to produce more oil. But there's a new narrative developing in the last, 4 or 5 days. It's sort of like the narrative, the reason Biden's approval numbers are in the tank is because Americans just aren't smart enough to figure out all he's done. Okay, well, I've been to school a day or two. I'm sure you have too. But today, Biden reiterated something that White House spokesperson Psaki said yesterday. And I quote, "I'm not the one holding U.S. energy back." Okay. Biden and Psaki both claimed there are 9,000 oil and gas leases on federal property going unused. So don't blame us. Talk to the oil companies. Liz, as a former oil and gas attorney, Williston Basin, Powder River Basin, Permian Basin, negotiating offshore contracts with overseas companies. A lot of people under the impression, and there's no reason why you should know, but, drilling for oil, then extracting oil is not a process like going and finding a piece of ground, getting a lease on it, and sticking a straw in and sucking the oil out. It doesn't work that way. There are tons and tons of permits. You've got to go through exploration. You've got to go through extraction. You got to develop. And that's why we wanted to have this next guest on. Just because you lease a piece of land, you have a piece of land under lease, doesn't mean there's oil there. You're hopeful, and, you go with some preconceived information. And even if there is, you got to have permit after permit to actually drill. That's why I'm very proud to have Jay Young, fourth generation oil and gas professional. He has a leadership team with over 100 years of combined oil and gas exploration development experience, maintains an operating staff of all kinds of industry specialists, including a geoscientist, engineer, field ops, finance, accounting, and land professionals. He's got a book, too, The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing, and that's not for the faint of heart. You better know what you're doing. First of all, Mr. Young, thank you for being with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Let's get down to the basics, all right? Because everything coming out of the White House, it changes from day to day, if not hour to hour. When, of course, they didn't talk about regulatory impact from this administration, which is very obviously anti-fossil fuel. They didn't talk about permitting. They didn't talk about anything other than, you got the leases. It's up to you whether you drill or not. That's like spitting in the ocean trying to determine the change in volume. Tell people how this works.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, even though if you have the leases, you don't know if there's oil there, or getting a permit's a different story. I mean, it's kind of like the leases that we have in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. I can go get a permit on Tuesday, and I start drilling on Friday here in these states. But if I go to Wyoming or Colorado, where I have leases, I don't have anything in California, but it's equally as hard, if not worse. You can't get a permit. I mean, like Colorado, we've been going through you have to go through the plan, you have to go through the downhole, you have to go downhole logs, you have to send them this, you have to send them that. I mean, it takes so much time to get these permits and to get the drilling started that, I mean, not only is the federal government involved in some with these permits, but the state is also involved. So when you think about why does Biden say we're not going to buy any more Russian oil, I mean, there's so much politics and being a politician in that. It just kind of makes me sick, because I know that we need that oil. We need that oil more now than we have for months. I mean, years. I've been talking about we're going to have a supply problem, for the last couple of years, ever since you saw the rig count after the pandemic. Go from 1,200 rigs to 250 rigs drilling for oil and gas in the United States. and the demand went down, but the supply went down even further, and the supply has to get back up once we have solid demand, which demand's going to come back. We knew that, but the supply didn't. We're going to have a supply problem, which is going to raise the price. But also, too, with this situation now, and Russia, they have about 11 million barrels a day, and that's about 11-12% of how much oil we need in the world. And if everybody follows suit and not buy Russian oil, we're going to have a supply problem.
Yeah,
so
well,
there's so many different factors.
Yeah, a lot of factors. And, back in the day, you can check your rig report in various states and counties and so on. But, for most people, they think, well, you got an oil and gas lease, go drill it and produce oil. It's not that simple. It doesn't work that way. And it certainly doesn't help when the federal government, and as you correctly point out, different states have regulations too. And it's just, look, people have got to get off this anti-fossil fuel. I got no problem with alternative fuels or anything like that, but you don't, totally scuttle what you've got until you've got something to replace it. And we're years and years away from an alternative energy source. So I don't understand why you would cut yourself off at the knees in the meantime.
Exactly, yeah. 50% of the barrel of oil, 50%, and probably a bit more than that, maybe 55, 60, what I've heard, is of a barrel of oil is used for products other than transportation. I'm talking about airplanes, cars, trucks, the whole industry. So we need oil for more than just cars and trucks, because people are like, well, if we don't drive and if we buy electric cars, we're good. No, it's going to be a little bit harder than that. We're decades away from making every car. I mean, you may see one or two, but you're not going to see a lot of these Tesla cars yet, which, hey, I coined the term greener. We should go greener. I'm not against going greener, but you know what? It's going to happen, but it's not going to happen anytime soon, and I'm more worried about the barrels of oil that we need today and tomorrow and next month more than I am about 2035 and 2045 and all these other when they say we want to be totally green by 2045. Hey, that's great. Congratulations. Let's do something to get there. But in the meantime, we're not drilling for oil in the United States because of our government, because of institutions. Public companies aren't drilling, and we need to be back to drilling for oil in the United States so we don't have this supply problem where gasoline, it cost me $4.33 the other day to fill up, and almost $100. I mean, it almost went to $100 to fill up my Escalade, and the next time I go to the pump, I know that I'm going to be cut off at $100 next time I need to fill up.
Yeah, that's the next thing coming. Jay Young, oil and gas expert.